Then it's be good and pleasant that we dwell together in unity in our various neighborhoods and communities. And then to let that carry over into the various cities. And then to let that carry over into the various states. And have that carry over into the various countries. And I say that to say this, and this is somewhat going with what has been taught on the radio program over the past few weeks, because the topics have been, could it be possible for the black man in America to be part of the house of Israel? And then some have even raised the question, could it be possible for the black man, period, to be part of the house of Israel? And then you have many of those that are somewhat, I guess, of an atheist mindset that say that it's impossible because the people of African descent never was monotheistic. They never grabbed hold of a concept of a supreme being. And so I went, and the Almighty did a great thing. I looked for one of my books, and I couldn't find it. And I was disturbed at that moment, but then I did something, and I went on the internet. And it's a good thing the way the Almighty worked, because he removed that, but he opened up more venues for me than what that book had produced. And I pulled up something. Many of us know about and like I said, this is relating to what was taught. Many of us know about the Black Limba tribe of South Africa. And I'll just read some things in reference to the Limba tribe. It says the Limba tribe are an ethnic group numbering 70,000 in southern Africa. Although they speak Bantu languages, and Bantu is a substituted word for African. Similar to those spoken by their neighbors, they have specific religious practices and beliefs similar to those in Judaism, which they have remembered and transmitted orally through the generations. Then it says many Limba beliefs and practices can intricately be linked to Judaism, according to Dr. Rudo Matavia. This includes the following. They are monotheistic and call their creator, and then they call him by the name in their tongue. They consider one day per week holy, and on that day they praise this creator. And he says this resembles the Jewish, when you observe this, it resembles the Jewish Sabbath. They worship one day per week in which they consider this holy, and they praise their creator and thank him for looking after the Limba. And this is law. We can find that in Exodus 20 and 10. It's the Sabbath day law. It says they teach their children to honor their mothers and fathers. This is law. Exodus 20 and 12. They refrain from eating pork and other foods forbidden by the Old Testament. This is law. It states something that Moreh had pointed out to us and that we started instituting. That is also law, with Deuteronomy 26 and 11. And if we turn to Deuteronomy 26 and 11 very briefly, we'll read this law. If I'm not mistaken, this is what Moreh had pointed out. Maybe as recent as last week. But in Deuteronomy 26 and 11, it states, "And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh thy Elohim have given unto thee, and unto thine house, thou and the Levite, and the stranger that is amongst you." And Moreh made the statement that we was to rejoice in every good thing that the Almighty gives us. And that's one reason why we say grace before we eat as well as after we eat. Well, listen to what the Limba do. It says they say grace before feasting, and their form of slaughter resembles the Jewish Shekiah. They practice male circumcision. They place a Star of David on their tombstones. The Limba are encouraged to marry other Limbas. Sound like law, right? A non-Limba has to learn the religious laws, the dietary laws, before he can be vouched for. Then it goes into their tradition. It says they also have a tradition of being a migrant people, with clues pointing to their origins to the Middle East. According to their oral history of the Limba, their ancestry was Jews who left Judea about 2,500 years ago and who settled in a place called Sinai, later migrating further into East Africa. According to the findings of British researcher Tudor Prophet, the location of Sinai was more likely in Yemen. And after entering Africa, the tribe said to split off into two groups, with one staying in Ethiopia, the other traveling further south. I'll go on down. I can share this with those that want to see it, but I'll go on down because we're going to see something else here. It says, back to marriages, it says marriage to other Limbas is preferred. The Limba have restrictions on intermarriage with non-Limba, with it being particularly difficult for a male non-Limba to become a member. A woman who marries a Limba must learn Limba religion, dietary rules, and etc. She may not bring any cooking equipment from her previous home. Meaning that they meet a woman that's not a Limba, they don't want to bring in nothing that she used to have to their home because they see it as it might be defiled. She may have to shave her head. Says she may have to shave her head. Well, we know we had that law when we went out and we saw a woman that was captive and we brought her home and we desired to marry her. She had to shave her head and bewail her parents for 30 days. And then it says, as so is written in Deuteronomy 21:11-12. And then it says, and her children must be brought up as Limbas. They must be taught the ways and observe the ways of the people, not the other way around. This is what the Limba believe in. But if I can be so gracious as to share and be given time to share a little something else with the people. Many of us know about, because I just was able to go through, and once I got started on this journey, the Limbas, it took me into other African heritage. I want you to familiarize yourself with another people. And these people are called the Shungay or Shungayin of Africa, and the Songa people. And they came about from the Shungayin tribe, came into being when King Shaka Zulu of the Zulus sent Shoshagangi or Manakosi to conquer the Songa people in the area of present-day southern Mozambique during the efficacy upheaval of the 19th century. Shoshagane found a fertile place inhabited by scattered communities of peace-loving people, and he decided to make it his home rather than to return to Shaka. The Shungane were a mixture of Guni people, and I want you to keep this Guni or Nguni people in mind. But I'll read some things that the Shungane and the Songa people observed. It says, compared with common Western family structures, the traditional social structure of the Songhai tribes are quite complex. The smallest social unit that can be determined is the nuclear family, consisting of a woman with her own hut. Sound like our mothers, don't it? And cooking area, her husband, and their children. For Sangha men, the possibility of having more than one wife exists. In cases of polygamy, extended families came about, consisting of a group of nuclear families, headed by the same man. Sound like Abraham, Jacob. When the sons of an extended family married, a settlement or a multi came about, consisting of a man, his wives, their unmarried children, and the family. While generally a Bantu culture, and specifically in the Shungi and the Sangha culture, here's another African group of people or ethnic group. For our brother that says that the Africans ain't monotheistic, here's another one that believe in a supreme being, one, although they do acknowledge their ancestors. Sangha believe that man had a physical and a spiritual body with two added attributes, the Moreh and the Indusatu, or Indusati. The Moreh is associated with the spirit. It enters the body at birth, something what we would call the Ruach, and leaves at death. The Indusatu is associated with the person's shadow and reflected human characteristics. At death, the spiritual, it leaves the body. This is meant that the spirit that was attached to the individual and the human characteristics of that person, it passes over. And then it says the beliefs. It says in death, the members of a family perform a welcoming ceremony to help ease the passage of the dead person into the spirit world. The death of a member of the family is also caused all other members that go into the homestead to become unclean. Our law. All that go in the tent is unclean. Well, they look at it the same way. Anyone that goes into the homestead becomes unclean, and they all have to go through a ritual cleansing ceremony. This is the Sangha and the Shungayan people of Africa. And these people are people that are descendants and those that had dealings with one of the most popular African nations or African ethnic groups, and that's the Zulus. We all know about the Zulus, most of us. And the Zulus, they commonly call themselves Amazulu. And the word Ama is very similar, and it means people. Well, in our tongue, the word for people is not Ama, but it's Ami. They just say Ama, but it means the people, and then Zulu mean heaven. So they call themselves the people of heaven. This is who the Zulus reference themselves as. And it says, now here's something that I want everybody to really take a gander at. It says Zulu music has been carried worldwide, often by musicians using Zulu backup singers or performing songs by Zulu composers. A famous example of the former is Paul Simon. Examples of the songs is the Moreh. several tunes on the first 9 cassette album by Bow Wow. And little kids know Bow Wow. Well, he sampled some of the music of the Zulus. And in both cases, Bow Wow, and to a lesser extent, the Wimoweh, the original Zulu musicians, went largely unidentified and uncompensated by white musicians. But if you didn't know what the Wimoweh is, let me tell you what it is. How many seen The Lion King? When that opening music came up, and when they played that music throughout The Lion King, did you feel anything within your body? Did you get a little shudder? Did it move you a little bit? Well, that's what you was listening to. That's what the song was. That was the song, The Wimoweh. It's used in the Disney animated film, The Lion King. And the Zulu language is also sung in the opening of the film, which grabs you right off the top when it comes on, and it immediately just makes you perk up and you feel a real strong connection back to the land, don't you? Well, the Wimoweh is the song that's is part of the Zulu language, is used circle of life. That's what you hear. And then I'll skip down because I just have these things highlighted. Like I said, I'll share it with you and you can look over it. It says also in Zulu religion, there is the belief in a creator God. One. Knocks brother Pharaoh right out the box. Huh? Don't think he been doing his homework, because he should know all of this. And he claimed to be an African scholar. He need to go back to school because somebody taught him wrong. And it says, believe in the creator God who is above interacting in day-to-day human affairs. And then I'll skip down. It says another important aspect of Zulu religion is cleanliness. They separate utensils and plates were used for different foods, and bathing often occurs up to 3 times a day. And then I'll go to this. Christianity had a difficulty gaining a foothold among the Zulu people. And when it did, it was in a syncretic fashion. Now, I'm not no scholar, so I got to go back and find out what syncretic mean. And when I find out what it mean, I'm gonna let you know. But it seemed like it's close to synthetic, meaning it's a aberration. It said, in a syncretic fashion. And Isaiah Shimbe considered the Zulu Messiah presented a form of Christianity through the Nazarite Church, Baptist Church, which incorporated traditional customs. He's the same one that founded, and that is written somewhere else that I have on the Zulus, but he founded the Church of the Nazarites. Of course, the Nazarites we know are Hebrew. And it's the last people I'll deal with, because I took you in the progression of people, and all these people are tied in together. You could tie the Shangane and the Sangha into the Zulu because they was all in that same area. And I have all this in documentation right here. But this is where the Zulu people came from. And they came from the Nguni people. And the Nguni people are a pastoral group, ethnically part of the greater Bantu group. Again, Bantu means African, occupying much of the east and southern parts of Africa. They migrated southward over many centuries, probably entering now what is South Africa around 2,000 years ago in sporadic settlements, followed by larger waves of migration around 1400 CE. The Warozi, or Batutsi, people of Zimbabwe, who became the Amashana. There you go again, Amashana peoples. Many of the South African tribes are Nguni people. It says they migrated to North Zambia and into southern Zimbabwe, and the Aba Ndelbu people as well. They established the kingdom of Swaziland, in the early 19th century. Their religion of the Nguni people in Mozambique, South Africa, Zimbabwe can be Christian, whether Catholics or Protestant, or practitioners of African traditional religions, or they may practice forms of Christianity modified with traditional African values, such as that same church, the Shembe Church of the Nazarites. That's the Nguni people, and they are the precursor of the Zulu people, and they even have their ancestry written down. It says among these, or the precursor to the Zulu ancestors, is the Nguni people, named after a charismatic figure who previously was, who they have an epic written down about, detailing how they came from Egypt to the Great Lakes via the Red Sea corridor and Ethiopia, where the Great Lake area that they went to is around Lake Victoria. That's the Great Lakes that they're talking about. Just briefly, a few other things. It says, tradition in Nguni heirs, Zulus use part as traditional followers of the Nguni heirs. Zulus use part of the inherited cattle herd as dowry for marriage. To this day, it's still going on. The bride's father is to receive cattle as compensation for the loss of his daughter's labor within the household. Sound like our ways. A lot of these, and that's what these people essentially tie themselves back to. When you read all of this documentation, you will see that these people tie themselves back to coming out of the area of Judea, Samaria, and the places in which you read about in these scriptures. So when people, and this is valuable because you will have people ask you, how do you know? And how can you tell about the black man? Is Israel black? Is he this? Well, for those that need secular information, here's just a start and a tip of the iceberg. And believe you me, that's all it is, because that's all I done did is hit the tip. I'm getting ready to get into this, and I'm going to share this with Alicia, and hopefully we can even hit this and bring some of this out tonight on the radio show if he wishes to continue. But we teach as well that this, as scriptures say, this that we are in, this that we are walking in, this way of life, this is truth. This is real. And this is global. How beautiful and pleasant it is for your brethren to dwell together in unity. And this is global. This is here. This is in France. Just as the Almighty said, we got to go get them here. We got to go get them in France. We got to go reach them in Russia. We got to go reach them in Trinidad. We got to go reach them in Barbados. We got to go and reach them in India, in the Middle East, in Africa, where your brothers are, where they're keeping these laws, where they're showing you that you are the people. They're providing you further evidence to tie the links together. The Almighty is about to do a great thing, as he said. He's about to restore that beautiful people. He's about to make that report known that yes, them little nappy-headed black people in Cincinnati, Moreh Dan, them little nappy-headed black people down in Alabama running around with no shoes on, them little nappy black-headed children that you watch on TV when Sally Strutter's on there late at night talking about sending in your money that you refuse, that you put down, that you look at and say, oh, they're no good, they're refuge. Well, the Almighty about to show them all over the world, these are my sons. These are my daughters. They're beautiful. I love them. I want them back. Here they come. Make room for them. Praise the mighty Yah. Hallelujah.